They call it the Big Apple. You know why? Because you can have a gala there.
That was funny. Did you just make that up?
Yeah, all by myself.
Hey, Dad.
Hi,
Happy Thursday. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I just finished Tai Chi. I do Zoom Tai Chi. And you're probably going to say, why are you doing Tai Chi? Because I can't learn Chinese language, but if I can do Tai Chi and they take over, then they'll see I have something in common with them.
Always good to be prepared. That's what I always say.
That's
So, can you guess what we're going to talk about in today's episode based on my background?
Your background?
Yeah.
Oh, the background, you mean in the picture?
Mm-hmm.
I was walking, that was the bridge over the river, troubled waters. No, that was the Brooklyn Bridge, a magnificent bridge. And it looked like I'm ready to throw up my hands and jump. No, I was so happy I threw up my hands because I made it halfway across. And I was delighted that I got that far.
So, you used to live in New York a long, long time ago. Tell us about it.
Well, I graduated college and I didn't know what to do. I had majored in English. I had a series of jobs in New York. None of them worked out. First, I moved in. Friends said, you can move into my apartment because I'm not going to be here for a while. And it was way over near the Hudson River. Then from there, I moved up to 86th Street. 86th Street. And 79th Street, yeah. And I stayed there for some time. And then I found a lovely place in Greenwich Village and I moved there. I'm going to tell you about Greenwich Village. New York is always New York for whoever is there. And you can't go back again because it's going to be changed. And that's one of the nice things about New York, that it's always changing. The Greenwich Village that I lived in was not the Greenwich Village of years before. The Greenwich Village that was there after I left was not the Greenwich Village when I was there. All things changed except my underwear.
When were you living in New York? What decade was that?
I don't know. Let's see. When did the Egyptians build the pyramids? No, I would say it was probably somewhere around the 50s. Yeah, the 50s.
Regret leaving the city?
I don't think you should spend your time regretting anything. Whatever you do, that's what you've done.
So you have no regrets in your life at all?
Yes. That I didn't meet your mother much earlier and marry her that day.
Aww.
But yeah, no, I don't really have any big regrets. Actually, I consider myself very fortunate.
Well said. You are very fortunate because you have me for a daughter.
That's true. Who could ask for anything more?
You said a few days ago, I told you we were going to be covering New York on Fredside Chats, and you said, oh, I've got some great stories for you. So I'm ready to hear them if you still remember them and talk about those stories as well as some of your favorite New York memories.
We did back, I did crazy things back then. I used to drink a lot and so forth. I can tell, all right. So one time I went to a bar and I picked up this woman and I brought her back to the apartment and there I was with this girl.
I can't share that.
Why not?
You just talked about inappropriate things that a father and daughter shouldn't discuss on the internet.
Those are the stories I remember about New York. Okay. In New York, you go to a lot of parties. All right, here I go. Ready? In New York, you're always going to parties. Party.
Well, not me, because I'm in quarantine.
No, I know that. But party. Well, when you're popular like I was, you went to a lot of parties. I met this guy who practically invented mutual funds. He became like really, really big in mutual funds. And we became friendly. And he wanted me to become a salesman, sell mutual funds. Bernie was his name. He eventually got arrested by the government. So he invited me to a party at a place, I don't know if you've heard of it or you must have seen it, you read about, where John Lennon got killed, the Dakota.
Yeah.
72nd Street, magnificent building.
You've been there?
I went to a party there. And,
wow, Dad, how come you didn't invite me?
You're not going to believe this, you weren't around at the time.
Oh.
I think you were in Astoria or something. So anyway, I went to this party, and I said, this is not an apartment; it's a church because what would be a balcony was all open around it, and it had a huge organ. Can you imagine having a church-sized organ in your apartment? But of course, Loren Bacall lives there, and John Lennon's widow still lives there, and so forth. There's like a great place. So anyway, if you're ever around there, stop off, mention my name, they'll let you in. Also, at the White Horse, when I moved down to the village, I would go to White Horse after work and sit there and drink beer. And sometimes in the early afternoons, 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and sit there for hours just BSing. And that's where I met my first wife. And while we were sitting there talking, these guys were sitting 2 tables away, and they started singing, and they're rather loud. How was this? I said, hey, guys, do you mind toning down a little? I'm trying to talk to this young woman. It turned out it was Tom Clancy and the Clancy Brothers, the famous Irish singing group. And I'm telling them to lower the sound. When I got my degrees, I did an anthology with a man who became a well-known poet, and he was going to be inducted into the arts and letters, arts and whatever it was, way up in the west side of the museum. And he invited me for his induction into the ceremony. Incredible people were there. Duke Ellington, the famous musician, famous writers, famous musicians, painters. Anyway, it was having a reception before the ceremony, and go outside, and it began to rain, pouring. So I duck into the museum. I'm standing around, I'm looking at the wall of the pictures, and I see this picture of a skull in the desert, and I'm staring at it, and I get a tap on the shoulder, and I turn around, and the lady says, do you like that? And I said, yeah, it's really bizarre. I said, but I like it, I'm interested in it, it's weird. And she says, I did it. Her name was Georgia O'Keeffe. Another painter that I met because I worked with him, oddly enough, was one of my first academic job at Douglas College, which was part of Rutgers, and now is fully part of Rutgers. And in the art department, and this guy would come and go, and I'd know him slightly, I'd wave to him. I wasn't that friendly with him or anything. And one day he drove up in a brand new yellow Porsche car, very expensive car. And I went like that. He quit because he was moving to New York and becoming very famous. I can't even think of his name now. Maddie, what's his name?
Roy Lichtenstein.
Yeah, it was Roy Lichtenstein. I'm a schmuck. Had I known then and looked back and say, Roy, any painting that you want to throw away or dab of paint or anything, please let me have it. Because everything he did became extraordinarily expensive and valuable. But he made it. He gave up the academic job in the art department. But it was fun. Everything was fun in New York. New York has changed, I'm not pointing out. Of course, everything changes. Back then, I once had a girl that I was going to take out, and she lived in Brooklyn. And it took me like 4 days to find her, 4 days to get to Brooklyn. And finally, I came back, after the date, I came back, and someone said, you took out a girl from Brooklyn? Says, nobody goes to Brooklyn for a girl. Never date anybody above 14th Street. Now today, people in Manhattan are moving to Brooklyn. Back then, it was like, oh, you're going to move to the Sahara Desert. But today, it's very hip, very fashionable. I loved all of it. I loved all of it. You know what? The one thing I didn't do in New York was go to museums back then. I didn't like museums. You're supposed to ask me why.
I was going to. Why? You like museums now?
Yeah, I tell you, because I always found if I went to a museum, you'd get up close to a painting or picture or whatever, and you'd have like 15 people giving their interpretations or evaluations, and I couldn't stand that. The only museum that I discovered that I really loved was when I went with your mama to Madrid, the famous museum in Madrid, in Spain, and I couldn't understand the language, so I couldn't be bothered by whatever anyone said. So yeah, now I go to museums. I like museums now. I like the theater. I will go to the theater much more if I go into the city.
Remember the time we took you to see Hamilton? We
Yeah,
surprised you.
caught me off guard, you boy. You sure tricked me that time. You got.
I should include that clip for our viewers. So just a backstory. A couple of years ago, my mom surprised us with tickets to see Hamilton, and they told my brother and me first, but we didn't tell my dad. And we told him, what did we tell you we were seeing? Carousel?
Yeah, some dopey thing that I'm not that interested in seeing.
Well, it wasn't Hamilton, we told you. And then when we went into the theater, you didn't even notice, you didn't see all the
No.
poster names of Hamilton. And it wasn't until you sat down in the orchestra row and we passed you the playbill and you started crying. It was so cute.
What do you say?
I thought you said carousel.
He's crying. Hold it up.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I thought it was whatever it was going to see. It was the theater just before where Hamilton was playing, and it was an acceptable thing, but nothing to get crazy about. And then suddenly I'm seeing Hamilton.
If you had to pick one New York food that you can only eat whenever you go to New York, what would it be?
Katz's corned beef sandwich, half sour pickle, not a full sour, half sour, seeded rye bread, potato salad,
I should have known.
and maybe Dr. Brown's celery soda. Soda is not important to me, but I love that. I looked for that waiter. I remember I went to that time, and I went there, and the waiter thought I was a druggie, and he kept accusing me of being a druggie.
Yeah, he was genuinely concerned about you. And remember that time you and I saw Danny DeVito walking down the street in Tribeca?
Yeah.
You couldn't remember who it was, but you knew it was someone famous and you pointed at him.
I know.
You popped my arm and you said, look.
He was the only person in the entire city of Manhattan that I could look down and see his head. Everybody else I have to look up. And I was just casually, and I'm not impressed by movie characters and so forth. But I recognized him, and I thought you would be interested because I know you like to take pictures. So I said, hey, Miranda. And you went, ah! And you went crazy, and you took his picture. But he turned out, he's a very nice guy. And then later on, we went into that place, lovely, you sat at the bar and drank.
Do you have any final words on New York?
New York is the capital of the world. I've gone to New York, drove it. I used to drive. I hated driving, but I love driving in Manhattan. It was to me, that was like the best thing ever, was to drive into New York. And I love driving it. And I went in with my other kids, and we come out like late at night. We stop at bookstores on the way out before we got on the highway. and on the Upper West Side, near Broadway, there'd be all the hookers out there plying their trade. And my son would say, what a great place. Look at all the women out having fun. They're walking up and down, enjoying life. I said, no. Just keep quiet and go. We're going. And then finally, my older of the two sons said, can you take us to show us where the prostitutes are? Not tonight. Sometimes it was fun just to get into a car or on a train and just randomly go in and just say, we're going to go up to the West Side, or we're going to go down to the Battery. And you're always going to find something to do and something to see and find something new that you've never seen before. And every day was a discovery down there. And you watch the people, and you eat wonderful food. You're never going to get better bread than you're going to get anywhere you go in New York. So yeah, everything was a ball in New York. Everything was fun. Great times there, great times. I still love going in. I have a daughter that lives there. What are you doing, davening?
No, sorry.
I want to leave you with this. One of my favorite people One of my favorite people is Lenny Bruce. And Lenny Bruce said, if you live in New York, it doesn't matter who you are, what your background is, you're Jewish. If you live in the Middle West, you can be the most Orthodox Jew in the world. You're not Jewish, you're Christian. That's the difference between New York. New York, everybody is Jewish, he said. How true that is.
You always have so many stories about famous people.
Yeah, I met a couple. I never got famous, but I met some famous people.
You're famous. You have like 5 fans now.
5 fans.
Say, what do you want to say to your fans?
I was there. Fans, I love you. Buy me a Lexus. No.
This is your one chance. What do you want to say to your fans?
I want to say that I'm very lonely out here in the boonies, all by myself, locked down. Your mother's keeping 6 feet away from me. But I love you all, and I'm very happy that you like me. It's good to have a friend, except for the one person, and you know who you are, who said something bad about me, and I was told about it. So the good ones, fans, you're going to hear from me. You're going to be in my will. I love you.